Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So last week I shared 50 signs that you need to simplify, and 2 of those signs were related to technology, not being able to find things when you're looking for them, whether it's on your phone, not being able to locate your apps, or on your desktop, not being able to locate any of your files or folders because you have so much digital clutter. And really the list goes on and on from there. I mean, digital clutter is not something that is going to be going away anytime in the near future, if ever. So we're looking at, photos and emails and documents. It's like an imprint of our lives that exists in digital form. It can really get in disarray if you have no system for managing all of those things, which can lead to, of course, digital clutter, which can lead to very similar symptoms as those that you experience inside of your physical living environment. So today I'm sharing my personal 9 tech rules that I live by to simplify my digital life and prevent digital clutter. Apologies, I am getting over being sick for the past week and a half, and so I do come at you with a raspy voice, but hopefully you can hear me okay. I do want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and if you like what you hear today, be sure to give it a thumbs up. All right, let's dive in. My number 1 tech rule is to keep nothing on the desktop. Nothing drives me more insane than logging onto my computer, planning to be productive and start my day, and then just seeing all of this random stuff in my face, like all of these random apps and random documents, and you can't find what you're looking for. It just drives me crazy, and it's no way to be productive either because there's no faster way to get distracted and go down the rabbit hole than to present yourself immediately with all of these other options of things you could be looking at. I treat my digital desktop like I would a physical desktop. So I don't keep or store anything on my computer desktop. Instead, I religiously use a downloads folder, and I did this back when I had a PC. I do it now that I have a Mac, so it definitely works with both. And what I recommend is that anytime you start using a new application that's going to be downloading or saving files to some place, that you select the downloads folder as opposed to the desktop. A lot of places are going to default to trying to save things to the desktop, so make sure that you're just taking that extra second to pay attention to the location that things are being saved. So one example of this is screenshots. The screenshots on my Mac were automatically set to save to the desktop. But by just taking a second to click on the options and select the location for my screenshots to go to the downloads instead of the desktop, all future screenshots or screen recordings are now downloaded to the downloads. You only need to set it up once and then forget it. Really, the only 2 things that I have going on that regularly download files to my computer at all are things like the screen recording and things that are downloaded from a browser. So if you look at your computer system, you have just these big main folders where things are automatically being diverted. So you have your desktop, which is what you're seeing every time, but that's also showing up as a folder in the behind the scenes of your computer. So you can drag and drop files to this desktop folder and it's going to show up on your desktop screen. You can also open up that folder for your desktop and move all of the files and screenshots and whatever apps happen to be showing up in there, and you can move those to another location, like a documents folder or your downloads folder, depending on how you want to use your folders. I'll share how I use mine here in a second, but it's good to know that you can easily just open up this folder, move things along, and you can always see what those files are on the back end a little more easily than you can with them all just being in your face on your desktop. I will add just one little note that the only time I use my desktop as a placeholder for a download or something is if I'm actively using that. So when I'm creating a video, for example, like I am right now, whenever I upload all of these video clips using my memory card, I'm going to drag those over to my desktop in one folder. I'll save them all to a single folder so that they're not spread out all over the place, and then I'll drag it over to my desktop because I'm actively working on this file. And that way I can move clips over into my video editing software. I can upload them to Google Drive. So to me, the desktop is my workspace. It's the space where I'm actively working. It is literally like my desktop at work would be. If you have a desk and you're thinking about like the desktop, it should be the things that you're actively working on, not all of the things that you've ever worked on. Rule number 2, I have a folder for everything. I don't keep loose documents unless it's literally the only document of its kind and I'm actively using it. If I'm not actively using it, then it'll be uploaded to an online storage system like Google Drive and not kept on my computer at all. When it comes to my desktop, like I mentioned in Rule 1, I use the Documents folder and the Downloads folder. Downloads I use for things that are fresh, things that are coming in and going out. Those are the things that I'm going to be downloading from my browser or screenshots. And once they get to the Downloads folder, they're going to be going somewhere. So I'm going to either be uploading them to Google Drive or I'm going to be using them if I'm editing something or creating a graphic. And then all of those things generally by the end of the day will be going into the trash because I'll have already used them or moved them to wherever I intended them to go. So generally my Downloads folder is empty, or at least that's my goal. I think of it kind of like my email. You know, I want my email to be on inbox 0. I want my Downloads folder to be at downloads 0. If I'm filling out something for the kids' school and I need to sign a PDF, I'll download the PDF, I'll sign it, I'll upload it to email or wherever I need to be sending it off to, and then I'll move it over to the trash and delete it. Or if I want to save a copy for myself, I'll upload it to Google Drive and then delete it. Regardless, the path is the same. It's in the Downloads folder until I'm done actively working on it, and then it goes into the trash. The Documents folder is for those longer lasting projects, something that I'm going to be working on maybe for the entire quarter or for several weeks or a month. So I'm not necessarily wanting to have it in my face all the time in the Downloads folder, but I might be wanting to access it regularly enough that it wouldn't make sense for me to go into my Google Drive and re-download it every time. An example of this would be a headshot. I'll keep a couple of headshots in a folder in my Documents folder so that it's easy for me just to pop in there and upload. Now, my digital filing cabinet, which is where I keep all of my documents that I want to keep a digital copy of, that's going to be on my Google Drive. So I have a personal Google Drive account and I have a business Google Drive account, and both of those hold all of the documents that I'm going to need to just regularly store and have like a digital filing cabinet. I'll talk a little more about what type of folders here in the next section, but everything still belongs in a folder and a subfolder. Tech rule number 3, category is king. I file and create folders based on category before anything else. I think in large categories, subcategories, subcategories. So before we go by dates or alphabetical order or any other kind of hierarchy or sorting system, I always start with categories. And sometimes I'll number those categories just so that I can always choose the order that I want things to be in. There might be things that I'm almost always going for this folder number 1, and so I just put a number 1 on it so that it's always at the top. With my personal, I have things like people's names or, myself, Matt, and then the kids. And then within the kids main category folder, then I have subfolders for each kid. I have a main folder for finances inside of my personal drive folder. And within that finances, I have a subfolder that is for taxes. Then it starts going by year. I'm a fan of folders, but only if they're being used. So an empty folder means delete. Before we go on, another place to get really great productivity, time management, and career lessons and advice right now is Skillshare, and they're our sponsor for today's video. Skillshare is this platform that lets you get all of the information that you need. With all of the changes in people working from home and leaving jobs they hate and trying to build their own career, their focus has shifted more toward being a platform where people can learn new careers and new skills. You can learn like everything from the ground up: marketing, opening up a shop, creating your own website, like whatever that dream or goal is. You can learn those skills on Skillshare. I told you a couple of weeks ago that I've been really binging out on Ali Abdaal, and that's still the case. But now I've been focusing more on productivity and how to be a more purposeful and thriving person as an entrepreneur, especially working from home, because that can be challenging for so many of us. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Rule number 4, email inbox 0, even if it isn't. This is something that I largely gathered from Kath, who I've talked about many times. I've taken her digital clutter course and I highly recommend it. I will leave a link to her digital clutter-free workshop down in the description so you can check it out. Tons of great information. I've always done an email folder system, but something new that I started doing since taking her digital clutter course is using a star box method. And that's been really huge for me being able to achieve inbox zero while still like adding some kind of a category or hierarchy system to the way that I'm using my emails. So, for example, if I go in and I check my emails and it's got, like tons of things from different people, some of them I might need to unsubscribe or delete. Some of them I'll check and I won't necessarily need to respond to, but I'll want to hold on to them. In that case, I have my main category folders off to the side and I have subfolders underneath those. So there might be, for example, different brands that I'm working with. And I would just drag that email over into the appropriate folder for the brand. In my personal email inbox, I might have a main folder that is for finances and a subfolder that's for receipts. And once I've looked at a receipt, if I want to hold on to it, I'll drag it over into that receipts folder. But there are some emails that I do want to pay attention to. Maybe there's a training that I do want to watch and I need to watch it in the next day. A friend that I do need to respond to, but I'm not ready to respond to them and be really mindful about it right now. I'll star those things and put it in my star box. And if it's something that after I respond to, I'm going to want to hold on to, then I'll also drag that over into its folder. So it's no longer in my inbox. Now I have the star, so it's at the bottom of my star box, and it's saved over in the folder so that even once I get it out of my star box after, it's already sorted. If I don't want to save it though, I'll just archive it. Then I can always search for it, but it's still available there in my star box until the time that I take care of it. And once I take care of it, then I just remove the star and it's already archived. That is just one cool tip of many that I learned from taking Kath's free workshop. So I recommend if you want to really dive into getting into things like email and document sorting and just all of the things related to digital clutter, I recommend you check out the free workshop that I have linked down there. But for me, this is how I manage my emails and always keep an inbox zero, even if it's not completely zero. Like even if everything isn't just deleted, it's still tended to. I love this system. I even have a folder in both my personal and business for inspiration. So if I receive emails that I'm like, oh, that really inspired me, or it's motivating, or it's something that I might want to pull up later to remind myself of, that's fine. I'll just move that into my inspirations folder. And then occasionally here and there, I'll go through it. Number 5, I keep an ongoing photo backup. What I use, because I like to keep everything in the same place, is Google Photos. And I think that really it's the easiest and largest option when it comes to a free place to keep your photos, unless you have an Aura frame. Those are awesome too. But if you want to be able to keep like an online storage type of location, I think Google Photos is the place to go. I did this back when I had PC laptops and Android phones, and I still use the same system now that I have Mac laptops and Apple iPhones. I say plural. I have a singular one of each of those at any given time, and I've used this for both. The only difference is that on Android devices, you likely already have Google Photos loaded, and as soon as you log into your Google account, it might even start backing up for you depending on what phone you have. With Apple products, you need to download the Google Photos app yourself and make sure that it is set to back up by taking a few steps inside of the Google Photos app. I, of course, do use the iPhotos app that's native on the iPhones. Anytime you take a picture or a video, that is the storage location where those pictures and videos are held. And that's great because they also have really great editing software when it comes to wanting to edit or filter your images. But any of you who have Apple products, unless you're paying the extra monthly fee for additional storage, you're going to run out really fast. So having all of my photos and videos for all time saved on iCloud, or especially on my device, is just not feasible. I will very quickly run out of space. So I need a place that I can back them up to, and that place for me is Google Photos. Google Photos used to be free until I think June of 2021, and then they started charging for anything beyond the 15 gigabytes of storage that comes with Google in general. So with Google, you get Google Drive, Google Photos, Gmail, Google Calendar, all of the Google suite of stuff. And all of that comes with a shared 15 gigabytes of memory. If you had any photos that were in your Google Photos prior to the switch of this happening in June of 2021, all of those are grandfathered in. You don't have to worry about those. But starting on that date and moving forward, any photos that you uploaded would take from your 15 gigabytes. This is versus iCloud that only gives you 5 gigabytes of free storage, which, like I said, goes really fast. You can search for people by name. You can save faces. So if I look for pictures of myself, for example, it knows my name because I've attached my name to my face. And so I can look through all of my category and archive of Google Photos for just my face. And the same is true for all of my family members. I've saved a name for all of their faces, and I can look up any person just by typing in their name, and it searches through thousands and thousands of photos and finds me just those that I'm looking for. I could do the same thing with dates. I could do the same thing with videos or specific types of files. Just type it in the search and it pulls up everything that matches that search feature, which I love. It makes it super easy. You can create albums, and I already have so many albums created. Maybe iCloud does some of that with their photos. I'm not entirely sure. Number 6 is that I harness my browser's bookmarks. It just makes things quicker and more efficient whenever you're actually trying to do something. I use it for only the things that I'm regularly accessing and that I can identify via the icon, because I remove a lot of the clutter by not using words. So essentially, I have a bookmarks bar full of icons, and I keep the bar hidden so that it only shows up when I open a brand new browser page. You just go into the settings for bookmarks, and you can easily click to hide the bookmarks or show them. I like to hide them because I do a lot of screen recordings, but I do like to be able to open up a new browser and quickly click where I need to go. And of course, for those bookmarks that are not on the bar, I have those separated by categories, just like everything else. Number 7 is that I create my own folder system inside of my iPhone, and I did the same thing whenever I had an Android. Android's usually a little bit easier to manipulate and create the folders to be and look however you want them to be and look. iPhone's a little more restrictive when it comes to that. You have to get creative and sometimes create your own widgets if you want things to look different and fancy. iPhones come with their own required folders for apps that it does automatically, but I don't always agree with those, and it's not necessarily intuitive in the way that I want to be viewing my applications. For example, there might be a grouping of apps that I use for work regularly. iPhone doesn't necessarily know that, so they may separate those apps into different folders for productivity or travel, things like that. I like to be in control of the way that my applications are grouped together because it makes it more intuitive and convenient and fast for me to use. Only those applications that I do use regularly are allowed to live outside of a folder, even on my iPhone desktop background. Otherwise, they go into one of my categorized folder systems that I've created on its own page according to the way that I think about my apps so that I can quickly find them. So on page 1 here, I have all of the apps that I regularly use and that I'll need to quickly access. Things like my calendar, my maps, my Gmail, YouTube, the things that I'm regularly accessing. Everything else is on page 2 here in the folders that I've created. And they're just as easy to create on iPhones as they are on Google, in that you just drag one app over to another app and it automatically creates the folder. And then you can name it whatever you want to name it. Rule number 8 is that I delete unused apps immediately if I immediately know that it's not something that's working out for me. Like if, for example, I download something onto my MacBook because I'm trying a new feature or a new software and I'm trying the free version and I immediately know this is not what I was looking for, I will immediately uninstall it and delete it. I'm not trying to hold on to it until a later time when I feel like clearing out my computer. I'll just delete it right then because I don't want to keep any kind of bloat on my devices, especially with the limited amount of storage that we have. With iPhone, they have a feature that'll offload unused apps. So if there are apps that I haven't used within a certain period of time, it automatically offloads those. Now, I've had good experiences and bad experiences with this feature. I like it in that it highlights the things that I'm not using. So it gives me that extra data that's like, maybe I should just go ahead and delete this. But I don't like it in that there are some things that I don't want to delete that I go to use in the moment. And now I have to essentially re-download that application before I can use it. So for example, when I go to Fred Meyer's, there are certain things that you can only use the digital coupon on if you go into their app and scan the digital coupon. It irritates me. I wish you could just get it because you have an account with them and do it that way. But no, they want you to have your phone there and actually scan the barcode. Well, in order to do that, I have to open the Fred Meyer's app. And I don't go there often enough that it really stays active. And so every time I go, I have to re-download the app. So that's an example of it not working out great, but I currently do have it enabled just because it gives me more free storage space. So I could use that extra space for these apps that I'm not using very frequently to be able to have some more pictures on my device or a couple of extra videos on my device without needing to go and make sure that everything's backed up and deleted and all of that good stuff. If there are apps that I know I'm not using and that I don't foresee a future purpose in, I will delete those things without thought. And rule number 9, live or die by the notifications. Notifications are probably one of the number one causes of mental clutter and distraction and procrastination and just being driven crazy by technology. And it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can turn off your notifications. And I'm very specific about my notifications. I don't just turn them all off either. That also drives me crazy. My kids do that. They just turn off all the notifications so that they're not getting notified from Roadblocks or TikTok or just whatever other apps they happen to have. And then they don't get messages or phone calls because all of their notifications are turned off. So it's frustrating for me as a parent. Kind of like I think of clutter, I like to declutter by selecting. Select the things I want to keep and then just disregard the other things. And that's pretty much what I do with my notifications. I select the ones that I want to hear from and I disregard all of the others. Another thing that I'll do, because sometimes I'll start a new application and I'll think, yeah, I want those notifications. And a couple of days in, I'm like, nope, I don't want those anymore. I'll take that moment on the spot, swipe off to the side, click the manage button and click turn off notifications. Like, I know exactly the little path that my finger needs to go to get that done, and I'll do it immediately while I have that notification up. So those are my personal 9 must-have tech rules that keep me from having digital clutter and that keep my digital life looking as organized as my physical life. If you found this helpful, be sure to click the thumbs up button. And if you're interested in more information on creating clutter-free, organized, streamlined spaces, be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. I release new videos every Tuesday, and I'll chat with you next week.